Is sight reading making your kid hate learning music? Well, go get them and watch this video. I remember as a kid when I was learning piano, sight reading wasn't always easy. So I was really happy when recently I got the chance to interview Paul Harris, an expert on sight reading. He's written about 600 books about sight reading and scales to help students and teachers find the fun in these often disliked parts of music. So this is a pretty much full lesson taken from inside my music program. So take a seat, get comfortable, hopefully with your kids, and enjoy the lesson. We're so pleased that you could join us. Thank you very much. And could we first start by just having you introduce who you are to the children? Some of you may know who you are, but for those who don't, could you just fill us in?
Well, great to see you all, although I can't actually see you, but it's great to see you all. It's nice to know that you're there. Difficult to introduce myself. This is my catalogue, produced by the people that publish my music, and it's got kind of a lot of my books in it. So I write music and I write books, and I play the piano, like I think a lot of you do, most of you. I also play other instruments. I love music. My life is all about music. I love teaching. I had wonderful teachers when I was a lad, and what I want to do is just recreate the lovely experiences I had as a learner, as a pupil, and introduce this idea to everyone that music is wonderful. It's something that we share together, and by doing music, we make the world a better place. You know, what a better thing can that be? And so that's what I do. I just write music, teach music, play music, and hopefully in a tiny little way make the world a little place, as all you can do as well.
That's lovely. Thanks, Paul. And we met in person earlier this year, actually, for the first time. But you've been a kind of a name I've known for years and years and years, both as a student learning piano, going through your books, and then later in life as a teacher, because you've written, you said to me, about 600 books. I mean, it's phenomenal. I think we'll have to talk about your output, how you managed to create 600 books later on. But excellent. So we're going to move straight on, if that's okay, into sight reading, because you're known for a number of things. But for me, as a teacher especially, hang on a minute, I've just realised I've got this silly thing over my head. There we go, take that away. I know you quite a lot about sight reading because of all the fantastic books you've written about it. I've actually just got one here. Oh, this is one of your recent ones, isn't it? How to Sight Read. And so much good stuff in there. But some of the children in the audience are learning an instrument, some up to even grade 8. Some haven't started an instrument yet. But can you try and give us like a little bit of for those who don't know, what is sight reading? Why is it important for us in music?
I think it's very important. First of all, let's deal with this expression sight reading. I think probably what we all think about when we use that expression sight reading is reading a piece for the first time, or we might think of the sight reading bit in an exam if you happen to do exams. But really, when we read music, we're always sight reading because we're using our eyes, our sight, to read music. So we're always sight reading. And in my opinion, and I've written that book that Will just showed you is a book about sight reading. Over the years, I've written loads of books called Improve Your Sight Reading, which are kind of workbooks. And in my thinking, in my opinion, if you can read music, and sight reading is just a word maybe for the first time, but it might be the second time or the 100th time or the millionth time. If you can read music and you understand it, you're just overall a better musician, a more complete musician. And I want all my pupils, and I want everyone really who does music, to be able to look at some music and read it. And one of the things I want you to learn to do, I like you to in your practice, is to sit in a comfortable chair like this one with a piece of music and just read it. Just look at it and read it like you read a book. I want you to get used to that, because if you can do that, if you can look at music, hear it in your head, which you will be able to do, understand it, it will just have such a big effect on all your musical endeavours, all the things you do, because you understand it. That's the main thing. There are other reasons. If we can sight read, obviously we do better at exams, if you do exams. It allows you to play with other people. You know, if you're a pianist, you can do piano duets. Someone sitting next to you, it's lovely doing piano duets. You can accompany friends maybe who might play a different instrument, and you think, oh no, people that accompany clarinetists or violinists have to be really good. No, they don't. They can, if they can sight read to some extent, you can play music with your friends. And because you can read music, the great art of music continues, because each of you can read music and help the great art of music continue. That's some reasons why it's so important.
Yeah, I have to agree with all of that. And the number of adults I would say I meet, and they say, oh, I wish I learned to read music when I was a child, because it's almost like reading text, isn't it? And you feel like all those horizons broaden. It's not to say that adults can't learn it later in life, of course, but you know, there's that, they realise that. Now, just a quick poll, actually. I meant to put this up earlier, because I'm going to put a little poll up. You probably will see it as well, Paul. Do you enjoy sight reading? Simple question, but if you haven't done it, don't worry, just select I haven't tried it yet. So some are here not having had learnt an instrument yet. Maybe sight reading hasn't really come into things too much in your mind. But what do you think?
While you're doing that, I'm just reading some of the comments, and I like Karen. Karen, who plays 6 instruments. Well done, Karen.
Whoa.
And all my teachers say I'm good at sight reading. Excellent. That is excellent. Well, yeah. And, if you get some of my books, I'm very grateful. I'll be delighted. If you can send me a picture, I can sign it for you.
Oh, lovely. So we've had a few. I find it quite hard. Betty has come through and saying, I'm not good at sight reading, so I'm saying.
Yeah, everyone can sight read. Everyone can sight read, yeah. And you should not find anything hard. We'll talk about that maybe later. If we got time.
Someone just said I have 4 ducks. Yep, thanks for that comment.
Finn says, I don't like or hate sight reading, I just do it. Well, I want you to learn to like it.
I can't read proper music. I can just read ABC music, etc. Okay.
Thank you, Iona. That's Karen's mum's name, for your thought. Good. Well done, Alice. You can do some sight reading every day and really enjoy it. Faye plays 4 instruments. Well done, Faye.
Well, why don't we move things on to, because let's end that poll now. We have a bit of a split. You know, some say it's actually 50-50 on yes, love it, nope, don't love it, and actually the majority haven't tried it. So what we're going to do today will be we'll kind of start you off on the right track, I suppose, Paul. That's true, isn't it? Rather than get into any bad habits with it, let's start off on the right track. So we're going to do it by way of a little game. And to take us into that, I have another little jingle. Let's do that, shall we, Paul? It's a very short one.
Tap your feet to notes and beats.
There you go. So this is about rhythm. And so before we get into the game, I'm just going to take this for a second, Paul, and you can just sit back in your comfy chair for a moment and get your breath. But we'll just quickly recap rhythm. So some may be here for the first time and have no idea about how rhythms are notated in music. That's absolutely fine. We'll just cover the basics. Maybe it's been a while and you just want a quick recap. So on the screen now, you can see we're just going to talk about 3 different note types in this part of the lesson, and we will call these te-te, this one ta, and this ta, because it's a 2-beat note. So just to hopefully make this clearer, I'm going to clap through the rhythm that you see on the screen, and I'm going to walk myself in. Ready? 1, 2, off I go. Te, te, ta, ta. And on the ta, I went there and I brought my hand down to my elbow just to help feel that second beat. Okay, excellent. Some people, Andrew's come back with the rhythm. Well done for that. So let's do it together. If you can, stand up please, and walk the beat. And then we'll clap the rhythm whilst walking the beat. So here we go. 1, 2, off we go. Ta, 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 ta. Okay, now just to check that we're happy if I put them in a different place, let's do this. I'm not going to have the ta. I'm just going to have these. Ready? 1, 2, off we go. Ta, 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 ta. Okay, let's do one more and then I think we'll move on. So how about this one? 1, 2, off we go. Ta, 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 ta. Right, so that's really the gist of the rhythms that we're going to do. So let's get into the game, shall we? And I have to credit you for this one, Paul, because I got this idea from you earlier in the year at the conference. Were you going to say something? Please, yes.
I just want to come in with one quick thing, because I noticed a very good comment from Melody. Sorry, am I still there?
Yeah.
From Melody Cole, who says, just started piano, so sight reading probably coming soon. Okay, I just want to comment on that point, because if you just started piano, I want you to sight read from now. In fact, I want you to sight read from the very first lesson. You probably had your first lesson now, so it's probably a bit late for that. But I want you all to get into this habit. If you are about to play a piece or anything from your book, before you play it, I want you to read it. I want you to read it. I want you to look at it, look at the music, and hear it in your head like you read words and hear the words in your head. When we read words, we always hear them in our head. We always do. I want you to look at that piece, and it may be the very first, maybe go back to the very first piece you learned from your book, which might be just on one note, and hear it in your head. And if you do that every time you are about to play a piece, and it takes a couple of seconds, you will be a completely different kind of musician. You will be a musician who can sight read. And really, that's all it takes.
Yep, that's a really, really good tip, Paul. Don't put it off right from the first lesson. Absolutely. So, going to the game then, I think I have touched on this in the previous lesson, actually, since getting the idea from you, Paul, earlier in the year. But as I think in your book, the How to Sight Read book, Paul, you actually talk about brain processing speed, and you mention video games. Now, some in the audience, everybody will know what video games are, but maybe not everyone will play them, but I'd imagine a fair few will be playing video games. And evidently, the speed with which reactions occur in a video game is incredibly high. So the brain's an amazing thing, and I think you made the comment, Paul, that it doesn't have to be less accurate because it's fast. Is that fair to say? That's roughly what you were saying in that chapter? Yeah. And we're not talking about video games here, but we are talking about how quickly our brain can process information. So I'm going to flash up a word on the screen about here. Okay, so I want everyone to be glued to the screen, and I'm only going to flash it up for a very, very, very brief, probably less than a second. If you see the word, please can you type it in the chat? Ready? Everyone looking at the screen? If you need to blink, blink now. Okay, so type it in the chat if you saw the word. Boom, there we are. They're all coming in. Chocolate, 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 chocolate. Now, how on earth did you see the word chocolate? Because let's be honest, how many letters are there in that? There are 9 letters in that word. No way could you have read every single letter. And yet, in about half a second, a quarter of a second perhaps, chocolate, you all saw it. Paul, why do you think that happened?
That's exactly right. Because you don't read the whole word. You look at the pattern, you look at the shape that word makes, and you just know that's chocolate. And so your brain understands that. It can hear the word, and then if you want to, you can say it, or you can write it down, as a lot of you have done. And that's really how the brain works. The brain works much more quickly, the brain processes much more quickly than you might think. And I want you to remember that. When you're doing something you enjoy doing, like those of you that play video games, you probably enjoy it. You know, someone doesn't have to say, go and play your video game now. I expect you probably go and do it because you enjoy doing it. And when you do something you enjoy doing, and also the thing about a video game is that, you know, if you do quite well, it says you've done quite well. You've gone up a certain number of levels or whatever it happens to say to you. And you feel motivated to do more. But the brain is working fast. All I really want you to do is to understand that the brain is working fast. And when you look at music, what you gradually learn to do without thinking of it, because it's the same as reading language, you learn patterns. And if you think about it, you know, for example, C to D, the note C to D, that's a pattern. Or C, E, G. Can you think of that pattern? C, E, G, those three notes. Will's going to put them over. That's a pattern, and you get to learn that pattern. It's called a triad. It has a particular kind of sound. On the piano, you know how to finger it. You just see that pattern in a split second. And instead of putting chocolate there, if Will had put that pattern for a quarter of a second, I probably guess most of you would have got it. And that's how we learn to read music better. That's one of the various ways, is that you see patterns, you grasp that pattern like chocolate immediately, and then your fingers play it while your brain, your eyes and your brain are looking ahead to the next bit. And if you understand that idea, you get very good at it.
Excellent, Paul. Yeah, that's really well expressed. And should we put that theory to the test? Well, it's not a theory, it's proven. It's proven, but should we put that to the test? So everybody look at the screen. In the same way, I'm going to flash up not a word, but a rhythm. I'll maybe give you a tiny bit more time, but no more than a second, okay? So everybody look at the screen, and what should we say? First, I want you to clap it. And then, if you can, put in the chat, ta, tete, whatever it is. Okay, just so I can know that you've got it. But most importantly, I want you to clap it. That's the main thing. Okay, ready? Here it goes. Okay, so hopefully now you're clapping it. Did you get it, Paul?
I did.
Do you want to clap it for us?
Yeah.
Oh, very good. You've done this before, haven't you? Very good. Excellent. Ta, 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 ta. Now, surely that was just a fluke, wasn't it? It's got to be. It's got to be a fluke. Let's try again. Ready? Looking at the screen. Okay. Very good. Did you get that one, Paul?
I think I did, yeah. And really, the point to make here, when I was talking about the patterns a moment ago, I was talking about melodic patterns, but of course, rhythmic patterns are exactly the same. You learn rhythmic patterns, and here's another interesting thing. It's very simple to see the rhythmic pattern and the melodic pattern at the same time. And here's the really important thing: if you understand it, your fingers will respond accurately. Your fingers will respond accurately, and you'll be able to play those notes, and you'll be able to play them for the right rhythm, because you've understood it. You've understood it. You don't have to work it out. You've understood it. Your brain has processed it. And I want you to, that's why I want you to practice sitting in a chair reading music, because you get better at this. And you just know. You know, I can do that. I know what it is.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of learning a language. If anybody watching this has learnt a language, you know that if you can think in the target language, that's fluency, really. You don't have to have any kind of translation in your head. I don't know if you would agree, Paul, but for me it feels like a similar point. Your brain has this eventually an instinctive response to what you read. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent. Someone's saying I'm learning Italian and Klingon. Well done for that. So, okay.
Klingon's a great language. I use examples of Klingon when I'm doing a sight reading talk for teachers. And
Do you?
I always show them a bit of Klingon.
Oh, well, I don't know. I wasn't prepared for that. I'm not quite sure what to say. Right. I think we should move it along. Would you mind, Paul, if we did that section about instruments? There's, well, I tell you what, let's have our jingle. Let's have our jingle. So, very exciting today because, Paul, you have two instruments to share with us. So as well as being well known for sight reading, for scales, many other things, books, you are also a very fine clarinet player. But you have a very exciting, were you able to show us the very exciting clarinet first?
Okay.
Tell us about that.
If anyone out there plays the clarinet, you probably got, can I show you my normal clarinet?
Of course, yes, please do, yeah.
You've probably got one like this. That's the normal clarinet. But I've got the clarinet comes in a big family of instruments, and just over here I've got the most amazing one ever. So I'm just going to get it. I think the camera's going to follow me around, which is very
There you go.
good.
Look at that.
Here it is, and here it is. Look at that.
Wow.
And it won't even fit in the screen. It's so big. There's the end of it down there. It's enormous, and it's called a contrabass clarinet. So we get the ordinary one, we get a sort of middle-sized one, we get a bass clarinet, which is a low one, and this one, which is a double bass clarinet. And you can imagine the sound. I haven't warmed it up, so it may or may not work, but you can imagine it's going to be quite low, and it is unbelievably low. It makes a ridiculous noise. Oh, and if it's not warmed up, it kind of squeaks like that. I'll see how low I can go. Are you getting some noise there?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, that's about the best I can do. It's not
Wow.
working very well, but it's a ridiculously noise. It's like a rumble. It's not really a note, it's a rumble. Oh, do you want to talk for a minute, Will? And I'm just going to...
Yeah, I feel like you know, that could be, we could have the contrabass clarinet on dubstep, couldn't we? That is so low. That's kind of...
I'm just going with it. I think I might have got it working a bit better. Let me just give it another go now. There you go.
Wow, that's like an amazing, almost flabby on those.
That's the bottom note.
And what note is that? I mean, how would that link to the note on the piano here then? What?
That's a low E, so that's a very low D on the piano.
Oh yeah, is that it? Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
You've got wowzers. That's a very low note. So, is there anything? I don't know if any of the children here want to ask questions about it, because it's not every day that you get to see a contrabass clarinet.
The most, I'll tell you where it's used actually.
Yeah.
There's hardly any kind of standard pieces of music for the contrabass, but they use it a lot in TV and film music.
Right. Okay.
Because it's more an effect than a proper note. And so if you hear very low rumbling noises, it may well be the contrabass clarinet.
Interesting.
Exactly. How many meters in it? Finn has asked. Do you mean how long is it? It's quite long actually.
It looks close to a metre and a half, maybe.
No, more.
Really?
I reckon it's if you straightened it out, the top bit and the bottom bit. I don't know. I reckon it's probably about 2.5 meters, maybe 3. Or it's 2 anyway. At least 2, I think. Yeah. Victoria's asked what songs can you play on it. Well, you can play any songs on it actually, but they sound pretty low and rumbly.
Are there any differences other than pitch? I suppose that's between a standard clarinet.
No, interestingly not, because the fingering is exactly the same. So if any of you play the clarinet, you could actually play that instrument. You had to kind of really get the embouchure, the lips, the right sort of pressure, but you can do it. Alice asks, what's your favourite song to play on it? I don't really play it very much, except making rumbling noises sometimes. Karen asks, how hard is it to play? It's not hard or easy. I don't have, in my world, and my pupils' worlds, we don't use the word hard or easy, difficult or easy. If you can do something, you can do it. It's not easy or hard. You can do it. If you can do it, you can do it. So learning is all about, making the right next step. And if you can do the right next thing, you can do it. Nothing's hard, nothing's easy.
I like that. That's a good takeaway quote from the lesson. I think nothing's hard, nothing's easy. Apart from getting our Zoom devices connected so that we can see each other and find each other, that's maybe a little bit hard.
That's
Right.
One more question I do.
Yeah.
Lots of us ask who made it. It's actually made in America. It was made in America. You can't just kind of buy them off the shelf, as it were. You can't go into a music shop and buy a contrabass clarinet because so few people have them. So they don't make them. If you want one, you have to order it, and they'll make you one. I ordered that from America. How old were you when you first played it? Do you mean that's Barney? Do you mean the contrabass or the ordinary clarinet? The ordinary clarinet I started when I was 10. I didn't that I've had for not that long actually.
That's nice to hear that you started the clarinet when you were 10. Did you start other instruments before that point? I know you.
Clarinet was first. I took the piano up when I was about 16.
Right. That's an interesting. I think quite an inspiring thought for those who are watching who maybe are double digits and they haven't yet started an instrument.
I have a friend, a piano teacher, who's just started a new beginner, and he is 80 years old. You can start the piano or any instrument really at any age if you want to.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Brilliant. Well, look, let's move this on. There's so much good stuff to talk about. We have another section, and this is where we were going to talk about. Well, before I reveal that to the children, let's have our next jingle, shall we?
Technical and theory.
Right. Well, you have to forgive me for that one, Paul. It's the kids like me making a fool of myself, so I put up occasionally. But I don't know. I mean, is it technical or theory? A little bit, I suppose. But we're going to talk about scales, I think, next, aren't we? Because you're also really well known for scales. I have a quick poll before we talk about scales. So again, if you haven't yet done scales, if you haven't done an instrument, don't worry about this. But let's have a quick poll. Do you enjoy playing scales? So we have a few options here. Yes, I'm practically a fish. There is a joke there, if you understand what I mean. No way, or I just do them to make my teacher happy. So it'd be good to get an idea of who does and doesn't like scales. I would like to think that most do, but if you're on the no camp, then we will hope to change you to the yes camp before the lesson's over. So, okay. Well, we'll round up soon, and often when we round up, we have one of my students recorded a little countdown timer. I'll play that now. Okay, that's the end of the poll. I didn't do that for the first one, did I? Okay, so actually, it's really nice to see, Paul. I don't know if you can see what I can see, that most people are saying, 68% are saying, yes, I enjoy playing scales. I think that, all things considered, that's pretty good. 23% say I just do them to make my teacher happy, and 9% of you, you know who you are, no way, you say. Well, you can still stay in the lesson if you like, but we hope that changes to a yes. So, Paul, what can we say about scales then? How can we kind of turn this around so that if anyone doesn't like scales, why are they important and how can we make them fun?
Well, first of all, the first point I might like to make about my own practice is that I practice loads of scales. I love practicing scales. When I'm practicing, and I try to practice every day, I do scales for about 2/3 of the practice. And if you think about it, almost all the music that you play is based on scale and arpeggio patterns. Almost everything, somehow or another. And so if you know your scales, if you know your fingerings, you will automatically pick up the patterns and be able to play those pieces more easily. It'll just happen because you've got the technique. Scales give you technique. In other words, they give you the ability to play your instrument and to move around your instrument. I particularly like arpeggios because arpeggios get you to move around the instrument because you're jumping all the time, which is very important. So, you know, when you're jumping in a piece, you can do it better. So I'd want you to kind of know that they're so important because they help you play virtually every piece. But here's something very interesting. And I'm going to show you on my clarinet. I've got a keyboard here actually, or it doesn't make a noise, but it's connected to my computer. But I'm going to play you two things. And we'll call it A and B, or 1 and 2. And I want you to think, what is the difference between 1 and 2? I hope you can see my fingers. I'll stand up a tiny bit.
Are you about to, so because someone I just noticed has asked the question because they're quite new to music, don't know what scales are, would it be enough just to hear you play this next thing so I'll see what a scale is?
Well, here is a scale.
All right.
That's a scale. It's just a sequence of notes going up and coming down again, which is very nice. Here's an arpeggio. 1 octave arpeggio. 2 octave arpeggio. 2 octave scale. It's just a sequence of notes in a particular key. I was doing F major, 1 flat. But this is my A-B thing. I hope you can see my fingers. This is A. And this is B. What was the difference? Okay, I'd love to ask you individually how you would express the difference, because different people will say different things. Some people will say in the first one, I played. What is anyone saying? What would you say? What would you say, Will?
Well, I've seen Finn has said pace. I think that was an answer. I love you, says Lola, but I think that was before you asked the question. Pace, longer / faster, said Lottie. A is longer. 2 semitones different, says Karen. Faster.
Good. All good answers. So some people say the first one was slow and the second one was fast. Okay, that's my least favorite answer. Some people say 2 long notes and then 2 short notes. That's much better. Okay, now the way I want you to think of it is 2 long notes or 2 short notes. Now this is the important point. When I changed notes, was my finger speed any different? Here's number 1. Here's number 2. Was my finger speed any different in the 2 examples? And the answer is no. The length of the notes were different, but not my finger speed. And when you learn your scales, another thing you can use your scales to learn to do is to play really fast and excitingly, which is not difficult. It's just a thing. And each time you move your finger, if you just remember that the finger speed actually, whether it's on the clarinet or whether it's on the piano, moving my finger speed, the moment I change my finger is the same speed whether each note is long or short. And I want you to think about that very carefully. I want you to think, as you're moving your fingers, the speed of the finger is the same. It's just dependent on the length of the note. And once you've understood that, you will find yourself playing actually much faster, because you'll think it's not difficult to play fast. It's just that, I'm making the notes shorter. That's all it is to it. And that's one of the great things you can use scales to really perfect and understand.
That's fantastic, Paul. And that's a really interesting way of looking at it. I have to say I've not really had it expressed that clearly before. Yeah, I like it. And some things that I share with some of my piano students, I like to vary it as much as possible. So, speed would be one variant, or playing staccato, legato, playing loudly, playing quietly, playing crescendo, diminuendo, and playing with different rhythms. I sometimes get my students to say, okay, play this as if you're grumpy. And then they have to combine a number of things, changing this to the articulation patterns, staccato, legato, slurs and different things. And there's a lot that can be done with scales, because like I think you suggested earlier, Paul, they basically are that's where all melodies come from. So as you do those changes, then of course you're making melodies, really. You're on that track. Amazing. We have kind of, our time is whizzing by. I wonder whether we might have a little bit of Q&A. We've had some questions actually come in as we go, which has been really nice. So I don't know. I actually have one question that was submitted. I didn't get time to forward it to you, Paul. Tell you what, let's have a quick quiz section ready.
Don't get in a tiz. It's just a quiz.
This is not a typical quiz, because actually you children get to ask the questions, so it's a little bit of a different quiz. Normally I ask the questions and you answer them, but there was just if you have any questions, please do put them in. Use the Q&A function if you can. If you put them in the chat, that's fine, but we might miss them. And here's one, Paul, that I can forward from Scarlett. How do you come up with all the different sites? So Scarlett actually, I know, learns the piano because she learns with me, and we use your Improve Your Sight Reading books. So That's the context for this. How do you come up with all the different sight reading tunes? Do you take inspiration from real pieces?
Well, thank you for that question, Charlotte. Was it Scarlett? Was it?
Scarlett, yeah.
Scarlett, thank you for that question. The answer is I don't know, to be honest. No, I don't take inspiration from other tunes. I must have written, I don't know, thousands of tunes because I've written loads of these sight reading books, and each one contains just pages and pages of different tunes. And I don't know how that happens, to be honest. I'm very, very lucky, privileged that I can write tunes, and I can write lots of different tunes, which you can as well. You know, it's only putting a few notes in an order and trying to make them sound nice. But of course, when I'm writing the sight reading books, each tune has to fit a particular set of what you might call criteria or parameters, because I might be writing a stage that is all about crotchets and quavers. So all the tunes will have crotchets and quavers, and maybe I'm just exploring F major. So the tunes will do crotchets and quavers in F major. So I have certain ideas that determine, you know, the ingredients of that tune. But luckily, I've got this ability to vary that in thousands of different ways. I don't know, it's just happened.
I think maybe this is a good point to mention the book that you created, Musical Doodles, Paul. I don't have the book because you only told me about it, I think it was Friday we met on Zoom just to have a chat about today's lesson, and you said about this book, Musical Doodles. So I'm going to get one. I'm fascinated by the idea, but it's like a book designed for... Well, I should let you explain it, Paul, rather than me.
Well, it's a book I did about 2 years ago, Musical Doodles, and it's all about writing music down, making up your own music in a way, although it doesn't really matter exactly what you make up. I think the art of writing music down, you know, we all have our computers and you can do music on computers, but there's something very nice indeed about having a book and a pencil and writing music down. And Musical Doodles is teaching you how to do the shapes and how to create little tunes. Each stage introduces another new idea. Maybe it's about how to write a couple of notes that sound like the end of a piece, or a couple of notes that sound like laughing or barking, a bit's a dog, or something. And so there's always a sort of an idea there. And then we think, how can we make music represent that thought or that sound or that feeling? And so by doing that, you learn to write it, you learn to write your own music. But then when you see these things in other people's music, you understand it more. You become a better musician.
So thanks for that, Paul. I'm definitely going to get one of those books, and I'll be talking about that a lot, I think, from the sound of that description. So I've just seen some more questions come in. I was at the top of the list, and I've realised there's loads below. Do you own a cat? Well, that's not really a musical question, unless we see a cat walking in the background, and then we'll get the answer. Do you want to take any of those questions, Paul? Can you see the ones I can see?
I didn't.
If you click on the question and answer Q&A thing.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong thing. Chat QA. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah. Right. Let me go to the bottom of it.
And Paul has just quickly. Someone asked, what was the name of the big clarinet? How did you find out about it? And Paul, I see you typed the answer, but I think it may not be visible to the children. So the big clarinet, you said, is a contrabass clarinet. Just to make sure that didn't get lost.
Okay.
Sorry, carry on, Paul, please.
Okay. Yeah. So what's the difference? What is the difference between different size clarinets? The difference is that as they get bigger, they get lower. You can also get. So I got some smaller ones as well, and when they're smaller, they're higher. That's the main difference there. Finn has asked, what is your favourite song? I absolutely can't tell you that because I have a different favourite song every day. Really, I love listening to music. I love playing tunes. And at the time I'm playing them, they're usually my favourite at that moment. Here's Alice. As a child, how you were introduced to music? Well, that's a very nice and interesting question. And it was actually my mother that decided that she wanted me to play the clarinet. I'm not sure I knew what a clarinet was at the time, actually. And I had a really, really brilliant teacher. that's how it all started. And Alice goes on to say, did you ever want not to be a musician? And the answer is no. I've always wanted to be one, and and it's been so much fun. But being a musician is quite hard work because you have to work a lot to in your life to be a musician, but it's wonderful. Emma's asked, how did you manage to make 600 books? The answer to that is I don't do weekends or holidays. I hardly ever go on holiday, and I hardly ever take time off on weekends. I just kind of work all the time. But I'll tell you something, it's not work. It's not like work because I enjoy it so much. It's never like work. It just is what I enjoy doing, and I'm doing it all the time. Any more have come through? I mean, at the end. Okay, Nicola has asked if I can show you a high clarinet. I could do, but we don't really have enough time because I have to go downstairs and get it out the case. But it looks like this, except it's just much smaller. Absolutely.
Yeah, very good. So what are there any... Oh, instruments. You play a few instruments, don't you? Not that we have time to hear you play them all, but you were saying clarinet.
I play lots of clarinet, all the clarinets. I play the piano. I can also do a bit on the violin. I learnt the violin at school. And I've written lots of violin books, so it's useful for me to do that. Faye has asked, do you like Mozart? And I do. Mozart's one of my favourite. Mozart was a child prodigy. And he started composing when he was about 6. And his music when he was about 6 is amazing because you can still get it now. And he was just, music poured out of him. And all the tunes he wrote are such lovely tunes. And so, yes, if I need a rest, I might put a piece of Mozart on whatever, however I'm listening to the music, and sit in a comfortable chair and listen to Mozart for 10 minutes. I did some concerts in Denmark last weekend, actually, in Copenhagen, and I played Mozart. That was the composer that I played in Mozart.
He did a lot for clarinet, didn't he, actually? So there's lots of brilliant clarinet repertoire.
Yeah, he wrote lots of lovely clarinet tunes.
Well, we've run out of time, really. I mean, we should.
I've got a tune. Can I play a tune?
That'd be. I didn't want to assume that you would, but absolutely.
It's just a tiny bit of it. I just wanted to play this tune and see if anyone knew it. It's one of the most famous clarinet tunes. So it's literally only four bars long, but I'm going to play it and see. Does anyone know this tune? Let me just warm up. Okay, here's the tune. Does anyone know that tune? It's one of the most famous tunes for the clarinet. Yes, Barney. Well done. Peter and the Wolf. Absolutely right. And what animal does that tune represent? I vaguely recognise it, says Karen. Emma and Ain, Fortune, Peter and the Wolf, well done. Cat, well done. It is the cat. No, it's not the duck, Barney, it's the cat. The duck is done by the oboe, another one of my favourite instruments. But that's the cat. If you don't know Peter and the Wolf, can you find a way of listening to it? Sometimes it lasts about 15 minutes, and it's a wonderful piece of music that has a story, and the narrator tells the story, and the music goes along with the story, and it's just a lovely way to enjoy some lovely music, some great tunes.
We're going to have to feature that one in a future lesson, aren't we? Thank you so much. That was and just 4 bars, but we got to really hear the beautiful kind of sound quality, the timbre of your clarinet. I think it's such a warm sound, actually, isn't it? It is. There's no shrillness to it at all. It's beautiful. Well, I mean, how do we close a lesson like this? It's been such an enjoyable 45 minutes or so, and thank you so much, Paul, for your time and for all your preparation, because the children probably realised that this wasn't just an off-the-cuff thing, but there was a lot of preparation from you as well, to get ready for today. So thank you so much for that. Any closing words? I mean, how would the children and their parents find more information about you, your books, and so on?
Well, I mean, if you want to bother to do that, I do have a website, which is called paulharristeaching.co.uk. And on that website, there's a list of all my books and lots of recordings of a lot of the pieces as well. And there's lots of other things. There's stuff I've written about and bits and pieces. So you can look on that. If you go to Faber, which is my publisher, Faber Music, and look up my bit on that, you can find out some stuff. If you just look on YouTube or Google search, you'll find lots of little talks that I've done, lots of little bits of music I've played, all sorts of stuff.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much, Paul, again. And yeah, I wish you could see, I'm sure, lots of smiling faces, but you don't. You just see me, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Maybe. Oh, well done.
Well, there you go. Mika's given us all the smiley faces all in one message.
let me finish with quite a serious thought, which is playing music is a good thing. And I want you all to remember that always. It's a good thing. You are doing something good. When you play a piece of music, it is injecting goodness into the world. Whether you're doing it at home or for a family member or whatever, it's something good. And I just want you to share your music with as many people as possible. And, each and every one of you is doing something good when you do it. Never give up. Never give up. It's so important.
Thank you, Paul. What lovely closing words. Fantastic. Well, that's it, everyone. We will see you in the next. We have a kind of exciting lesson next week. It's about Hans Zimmer, actually. But anyway, for today, yeah, big thank you, Paul, and we'll look out for you in the future. Yeah, and I'll keep using your books every day. All right, thanks ever so much.
Bye.
See you all. Bye. So you checking eBay for contrabass clarinets? Did that inspire you to think again about reading music or playing scales? I hope so. Go to my website, musicwithwill.com, and find out how you can join my weekly lessons, just like this one, live. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.